Hey guys, so today we're going to look at creating a VLAN or virtual LAN using a GNS3 switch. So let's go ahead and look at the desktop. Okay, this is a walkthrough. I'm basically creating VLANs. You're going to use a GNS3 virtual switch, which actually we're using a virtual switch to create a virtual LAN. The objectives for this lab: deploy network configuration parameters for a GNS3 PC appliance. That's the switch itself. And we're going to configure that switch, and we're going to give the VLANs descriptive names, and we're going to input the port settings. And then we're going to test connectivity. That means we're going to have several virtual machines hooked up to the virtual LAN. A network can be segmented using physical or logical segments. You can use physical. Basically, you can break up a network using switches, using routers, and things like that, or you can use logical. All the calculating that we've done in the last sections, basically calculating, borrowing host bits and things like that, that's all logical. Implementing a VLAN is also a logical segmentation. We're going to use one switch, but we're going to create multiple LANs inside the switch. So the task we want to accomplish: number one, configure network configuration parameters. We want to designate the ranges, etc. We want to configure a switch name, and then we're going to set the ports and the VLAN settings, and then verify that everything connects. All right, moving on to the next page. And remember, you got this little shield down here. This is where you keep track of your progress. All right, so configure network configuration parameters for lab PCs. You're going to select GNS01. So that's this one from the drop down, and click connect to VMs. You're going to open up the NetLab 7200, and that will open up the program that allows you to build your virtual network. When you hit play, you're going to get a device, basically looks like this. As the connectivity is established, then the little box next to the device's name will turn green. Basically what you're building, you have a router here, you have a couple of switches, and you have 4 PCs. Rename PC1 to Lab PC1. To right-click on it, configure, and change the name. Click check completion. At that point, you should get points here. Configure the IP address. Right-click and select Web Console. Configure the console display name. You're going to give it. You're going to set the PC name to Lab PC1, and you're going to set the IP to 192.168.1.10/24. And the gateway is 192.168.1.254. To save it, you'll type in save, check completion to make sure you're getting your points added up, and then minimize. Don't close the web console yet, but just minimize it. Change second PC's name to Lab PC2. You're going to configure it the same way with 192.168.1.11, 255.255.255.0. We put that in CIDR notation. And then gateway is .254. So to do that, you're going to go through here. You're going to hit save, check completion to make sure you're getting your points, and then minimize the console again. Configure the switch name. Rename the switch to Lab Switch. Right-click on switch 1 and select Configure. Change the name to Lab Switch and click Apply. Check completion. Make sure you're getting your points. Access Lab PC2 Web Console. You're going to right-click on Lab PC2 and select Web Console. The ping command. We're going to use the ping command in order to determine connectivity. So you're going to ping 192.168.1.10. That's what we want to get responses from. When we ping that, we should get responses from it. Then you're going to click stop to stop all devices, including the switches. When the device stops, the box turns red. Right-click the connection between Lab Switch 1 and Lab PC2. That would be there. Select yes to delete. We're going to get rid of that connection. Right-click on Lab Switch and select Configure. Scroll down to see port 7. Click on the trash can to delete port 7. Scroll down to add a new port. We're going to call it port 7, VLAN 2. Type, we're going to give it access. Click Add. Now you should have a new port 7. Click Apply to activate the settings. Don't forget to check completion, add a link. And you're going to connect the link between lab PC2 and lab switch. Drag the arrow across. To exit, add a link, click the add a link button, click play. When you start up all the lab devices, everything should connect. Right click on lab PC2 and select web console. You're going to verify that you can connect. You're going to ping 192.168.1.10. Display is not reachable because PC1 and PC2 are now on different VLANs, so there's no connection there anymore. The lab is now complete. In the lab, make sure you delete the virtual machines in the right pane. That's this button. It'll change to delete. You should have 20 points in the little shield here, and you should have completed this first section. The next section, subnets. We're going to be calculating subnets. The objective is to configure network configuration parameters on multiple PCs and verify connectivity. You're going to be building subnets, which is dividing a network into smaller networks by borrowing bits from the IP host segment and adding it to the network segment. And so the tasks are create a subnet table, configure the network configurations, and then verify connectivity. Okay, so page 1, create subnet table. Subnets, table documents the subnet for reference. So basically you're just making a list of all the broadcast and the network IDs and the ranges, etc. To create 2 subnets, remember you're going to borrow 1 bit. 2 to the first power is 2, and so that means you're going to create 2 subnets. The current subnet, mask 255.255.255.0. You'll convert that to binary, so you get 3 groups of 8 ones and a group of 8 zeros. The last 8 bits are the host portion. We're going to borrow a bit. We're going to borrow 1 1. So now our new subnet mask is going to be 1 1 1 1 1, all 8 ones, and then 1 0 0 0 0 0. So the actual, when we convert that back to binary, the new subnet mask will be 255.255.255.128 instead of .0. Define the network address of each of the subnets. Add the value of the borrowed bits to the subnet mask. So the new subnet octet 4 values 128. Subtract this borrowed value from 256. 256 minus 128 equals 128, and that's the value. That's how many hosts we're going to have in each subnet. Remember, we're not going to be able to use them all, but we are going to have 128 in each subnet. So subnet number 1, that's the original Class C addresses from 192.168.0. That's your network ID, all the way up 128 bits later, so 127. Now, that address is not usable either. 127 is going to be your broadcast address. So from 0 to 127, that's your complete range, but you have to subtract 2. So your actual usable range will be .1 to .126. Then the second subnet mask starts at 128 because you can't use 127. So you're going to move on from 128 to 255 because we start count at 0. And then 255 you can't use, and 128 you can't use. You're going to subtract those. So your range will be 129 to 254. So that gives you your network address, your broadcast address, and then your range from .1 to 126, 129 to 254. That's your range. The addresses for the network are .0 and .128, and then broadcast is .127, .255. You're going to select GNSO1 switch from the network and connect to it. You're going to open Lab 7200, but you're not going to use the play button yet. You're going to start all the devices in the lab and then click play on the top ribbon bar, which is up here. Don't forget, keep an eye on your points. To configure the parameters, first of all, you're going to use Web Console and PC1 and assign the second available IP address and the subnet mask from subnet 1. So remember, subnet 1 starts at .1. Or pardon me, the network ID is .0, so the first available is .1. It wants you to use the second available, so that's going to be .2. And the subnet mask is, remember we said .128. You're going to assign those using that code. Make sure to check completion. Using the web console, you're going to take the third available, which is .3, and still the same subnet mask, which is .128 for PC2. Remember to check completion, then PC3, you're going to continue on. You're going to make the first available IP address and subnet mask from subnet 2. We're switching subnets here. And then PC4, we're going to do the same thing here. Remember to check completion once you've completed the steps. Also, remember to keep an eye down here. Make sure you're getting your points. And then finally, verify device connectivity. You're going to ping. You're going to open up the web console for PC1. You're going to ping 192.168.1.3. And the ping command should return a reply. They're on the same subnet. And then you're going to ping .129, and now you should get a not reachable because they are not on the same subnet. If that's the case, then you have done the exercise correctly. You can delete the VMs, and you should have 20 points here. Scenario 4, we're going to create a 4-subnet. We're going to break a network up into 4 pieces, which means we're going to borrow 2 bits from host because 2 squared is 4. Create the subnet table and install the IP addresses just like we did the last time. The subnet table will look like that. First address or first sub, second sub, third sub, and fourth sub. You want to get the network IPs, the broadcast IPs, and then the usable IPs. Follow the steps. And then once you're done, delete the virtual machines. This is just a one-pager. And then finally, 5.9, we're going to build a VLAN. This is actually a scenario. The administrator of ABC High School will segment the network and make it harder for students to access administrative network segments. One option is to assign different VLANs. VLAN 2 is going to be used for the academics, and VLAN 3 will be admin. So the students will be on VLAN 2, admin will be on VLAN 3. And you're going to configure a switch to build that virtual LAN. I'll tell you right now, virtual LANs are easier to deal with than subnetting. It just is what it is. All right. So starting here, configure PC1. You're going to follow the instructions and then check completion. Make sure you get your 2 points. Same thing here. Check completion. Make sure you get these points. And PC3 and 4. Make sure you're hitting the check completion button. Same thing here. Rename the switch. Rename the second switch. And connect the following devices. Connect the following devices here. Make sure you're hitting the check completion button. Make sure you're getting your points here. At that point, you will have completed all of the virtual labs in this section. Okay, guys, once you've completed the virtual labs, you should have a better understanding about how subnetting and how virtual labs and virtual LANs actually work. So once you've got that done, you can move on to Module 6. If you have any questions, send me a message via the Canvas inbox or let me know in class, and I'll do my best to answer your question. Have a good day.